Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Hope everyone of you are doing well. So my name is Shireen from Very Capital Marketing, and I will be the MC for today. So during the webinars, if you have any question, to type them into the question box, and I will address the questions during Q&A sections at the end of the webinars. So before we introduce our speaker, please allow me to introduce our companies. As usual, I need to emphasize on our disclaimer where this presentation has not been reviewed by Securities Commission Malaysia and is provided to you solely for general information and does not constitute any recommendations. So Phillip Capitals is a wholly owned subsidiary of Phillip Holdings Sdn Bhd and it is incorporated on 7 October 1995. Our headquarters is in KL and we have 11 branches distributed across Malaysia. Other than that, Phillip Futures also a trading participant of Bursa Malaysia Derivative Berhad, clearing participant of Bursa Malaysia Derivative Clearing Berhad, and also holder of Capital Market Service License, which is known as CMSRL. So I would like to take this opportunity to extend our gratitude on behalf of my company, Phillip Capitals, to our clients. So without you, we are unable to achieve the rewards. Other than that, our mother company, Phillip Capitals, have office and branches over 15 different countries. And for futures, we are not only cover product in Malaysia, we also cover different exchange such as Singapore Exchange, CME, CBOT, NYMEX, and more. So with our strength of global coverage, clients are able to trade both local and foreign products under the same platforms. Next, Phillip Capital are offering three types of product, which is futures, contract for difference, which is known as CFD, and equities. So what would you choose, Phillip? First of all, we will provide advisory service such as inquiries. Next, we also provide a wide array of products for futures that enable clients to trade both local and foreign products. Other than that, we will send out letters, market news, and commentaries to clients every day through email for reference. Lastly, our headquarters have 24 hours brokering and execution support. This is important for clients who trade those foreign products, and also dealer can assist your inquiries anytime. So no matter you are our client or not, we will be offering one-to-one coaching session, which is including free seminars and webinars and free account openings. For the free one-to-one coaching sessions, the key topic that we are focusing are introductions to futures trading, product knowledge, platform coaching, and charting system. We also conduct free seminars and webinars regularly, so you guys can scan the QR code to register for more upcoming events to gain more knowledge. So I will leave here for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next, we also have the weekly market call. So you guys can scan the QR code to join these sections. So this is mostly on the technical analysis sharings. So I will leave this part for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next is our online account opening. So we already successfully launched the first futures trading online account opening in Malaysia. So you can open either stocks or futures trading account with online with no hassles. So if you wish to open a futures trading or stocks trading account through online, feel free to visit our website or you can scan the QR code and it will directly link you to the online account opening form. So if you need guidance on the online account opening, please do not hesitate to contact us. So for free account opening, you will receive complimentary mobile and desktop platform with no cost and access to wide variety of products including global futures, commodities, interest rate, indexes, and metals. So you guys can scan this for the demo account, and this platform is mainly for the futures tradings. And I will leave this for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So and our latest update is currently our platform is linked to the trading view. So if you get trade futures, so you can link your Nova to our trading view. And next, this is our stock platform, which is known as Poems Global 2.0. And this is our Phillip CFD trader, which is contract for difference. Okay. So let me introduce our speakers. Okay, so our speaker for today is Marcus Ng. So he is a Vice President of Cross Asset Listed Distribution Asia Pacific at Societe Generale. So he is responsible for the product management, sales, and marketing of the DCL, together with Warrants, Callable bull and bear contract in Hong Kong. So Marcus has been spent over 5 years at SGX managing the range of structured product listed on the securities market and driving the distribution of research content after graduating from the SGX Management Associate program. So let welcome Marcus Ng, our speaker today.
Thanks, Shireen. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. So let me quickly just share my screen first so that you can see what. Okay, let me share. Okay. Shireen, you can see my screen?
Yes, can.
Okay, that's great then. Okay, so let's start. Thanks, Philip Capital Malaysia for inviting Societe Generale, SocGen, to do this webinar for Malaysian investors over here. All right, so my name is Marcus. I'm from Societe Generale. We are a French bank. We are a big bank in terms of structured products. We have over 100,000 structured products listed on the European exchanges. And we do have structured products listed on the Asian exchanges as well. We have our warrants and our CBBCs in the Hong Kong exchange. And we have the DLCs that are listed on the SGX. And that is what I'm going to talk to you about today. To introduce to you this daily leverage certificates, or DLC for short, that is listed on SGX securities market. So I know a lot of Malaysian investors are already have the access or able to trade into the Singapore market. I'm sure many of you do own like DBS shares or UOB shares, etc. So you can trade the DLCs that are listed on SGX the same way that you would trade your DBS shares or your UOB shares. You can do it through Philip's POEM's account. So this one, you should have the access for trading the DLCs already. So now comes the education part. What you need to know about the DLCs before you start trading. That's why I've been invited by Philip today to give you that support in terms of understanding more about the DLCs and how it can value add to your trading or your overall investment portfolio. Okay, so DLCs is issued by Societe Generale. All right, we are the issuer, and then we list it on the SGX securities market for investors to buy and sell and to trade the DLCs. All right, all the DLCs is a leverage instrument. It has a fixed daily leverage of 2 times, 5 times, or 7 times leverage. So this one is a leverage instrument and a short-term trading instrument. So it's definitely not a buy and hold instrument. So something that you can use as a tactical instrument as part of your overall portfolio to capture opportunities in the market in the short term. Okay, so again, I emphasize this is not a buy and hold product. This is a short-term trading instrument that they can use to capture opportunities in the short term in the market. All right, so the DLCs is a leverage instrument, and it comes in a long and a short DLC. So there are 2 types of DLC, a long DLC and a short DLC. So if you're bullish on the underlying index or the underlying stock, you will buy the long DLC. But if you are bearish on the underlying stock or the underlying index, you will buy the short DLC. All right, so these DLCs allows you to capture opportunities in both bull and bear markets. So when the underlying stock or underlying index goes up, you can profit from it. Or if the underlying index goes down or goes corrects, or underlying stock goes down, you can use the short DLCs to profit from it as well. So you can trade both long and short direction using the DLCs. And the leverage, back to the leverage again, this leverage is a fixed daily leverage of 2 times, 5 times, and 7 times. And the leverage is based off the underlying assets, either index or single stocks, daily percentage performance. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit, the payoff. So the DLCs is traded on the SGX, very much like a stock, like I mentioned just now. You can trade it the same way that you would trade your DBS shares or your UOB shares or your OCBC shares listed on SGX. And DLCs, we are the issuer. SocGen, we are the issuer of these DLCs. So we issue it, and then we list it on the SGX securities market for people to buy and sell the DLCs. We are also the designated market maker. All right, so we provide the liquidity for investors to buy throughout the trading day on the SGX securities market. So the DLCs, we have over 200 DLCs listed on the SGX so far. We've come a long way since 2017. We've been around for 7 years. And now we have over 200 DLCs listed on the SGX covering Hong Kong, Singapore, and the US market. On the Hong Kong side, we have the indices. We have the Hang Seng Tech Index, Hang Seng Index, as well as the Hang Seng China Enterprises Index, with up to 7 times leverage on these indices. On the stocks wise, we have over 40 stocks. The China tech giants, Tencent, Alibaba, Meituan, you name it, we have it. We also have the old economy stocks like your Ping An, your HSBC, or Hong Kong Exchange, stocks that we have DLCs on them as well. All the single stock DLCs are at 5 times leverage for both long and short directions. On the Singapore market, we have the FTSE STI. So we have the STI index, we have the MSCI Singapore index, and also we have a large range of Singapore stocks that we cover as well. Within the STI constituents, your DBS, your Singapore banks, Capital Corp, Venture, SIA, we do have DLCs on them as well. And on the index wise, on the US market, it's our latest introduction into the market, US index DLCs. So these DLCs track the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, and Dow Jones indices, and you're able to trade it during Asian market, so you can get in ahead of the US market open. So this US index DLCs is our latest launch introduction to the DLC shelf. It's quite unique in the sense that you can trade it during the SGX market hours before the US market opens. So you can trade it during Asian hours where the DLCs will track the E-mini futures on these S&P 500, NASDAQ, and Dow Jones indices. So during Asian hours, it will track the E-mini futures, and then overnight, the DLCs will continue to track the cash market, the cash index performance. But please note that you can only trade these DLCs during SGX market hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. All right, so you will not be able to trade it when the US market is open at night during Asian hours. Okay, so these DLCs are only traded during SGX market hours. So for those who are very active trader, you want to trade it intraday kind of thing. Well, this US indices DLC might not move that much during Asian hours, given that the US E-mini futures do not move that much. But it's more for position traders, right? For swing traders who want to hold the DLCs, US index DLCs for a few days or a few weeks so as to capture the US market overnight move. You can use this US index DLCs for those swing or position traders. So you don't mind holding it overnight, even though you're not able to manage your positions overnight. You can only manage your positions during Asian hours, during SGX market open hours. But you're comfortable with that. You're not going to wake up in the middle of the night to try and manage your position, and you don't mind holding it for a few days or a few weeks. Then you can look for this US index DLCs, especially if you want that 7 times leverage for both long and short direction. All right. The HS Tech DLCs is our star product. It was the most actively traded product DLC last year, and as well as this year to date. Our DLCs, 5 times and 7 times DLCs on the Hang Seng Tech Index have been very popular among Singapore investors. With that kind of volatility on the Hang Seng Tech Index, there is a lot of opportunities for investors in Singapore to trade the index using the 5 times or 7 times DLC for both long and short directions. All right, so this one is our star product this year on the back of China recovery, and the China hopefully is at China and the Hong Kong stock market is hopefully at a pivotal point. Hopefully it's turning. The sentiment has been improving over the past couple of months. So hopefully, the long bear market that we've been in on the China Hong Kong stock market is over. But fingers crossed. Let's hope for a good turnaround. And markets, Singapore investors, they like to trade this a turnaround. And for the short term, if you're not too confident about the whole China recovery story in the long term, but in the short term, you are able to have a view. You can use this 7 times and 5 times DLC on the Hang Seng Tech Index as well as the Hang Seng Index. All right. So back to the basics of DLCs. So important to understand what you're trading, especially if it's a leverage trading instrument. It's important that you understand how it works so that you can come in with your eyes open and know how the DLC is supposed to give you that performance. All right. So the formula of the DLCs, how it provides that leverage is quite simple. It's this formula over here where the daily percentage performance of the underlying asset times by the fixed leverage factor, 5 times, 7 times, is equals to the daily percentage performance of the DLC. So in this example over here, the DBS is up by 2% on day 2 versus day 1. So it went up from $30 on day 1 to $30.60 on day 2. And so my 5 times long DBS DLC is up by 2%, times by 5, 10%. While my 5 times short DBS DLC is down by 2%, times by 5, 10%. All right. So that's how it works on a close-to-close basis every day. Every day, my DLC will give you 5 times of that of the underlying stocks or underlying index daily percentage performance on a close-to-close basis every single day. All right. So conversely over here also, if DBS was instead down by 2% on day 2 versus day 1, my 5 times short DBS DLC will be up by 10%, while my 5 times long DBS DLC will be down by 10%. Okay, so this fixed leverage, 5 times of the underlying stock or underlying index daily percentage performance happens every day on a close-to-close basis, and that's how the DLC provides that leverage. All right, so these DLCs have that leverage performance built into the formula of the product. And so this screenshot of our website over here, this Alibaba 5 times long DLC, DKPW, the stock code is DKPW. You can see that the screenshot over here, you can see that Alibaba stock was up by 1.45% on this particular day at 9:55 a.m. on 23rd of January this year. And so my DLC, DKPW, is up by 7.65%, around 5 times that of the underlying stock's daily percentage performance. All right. And conversely, my 5 times short Alibaba DLC, DFTW, will be down by minus 7.36%, close to 5 times that of Alibaba's stock price performance of 1.55% in a gain. Because Alibaba stock was up, therefore my short DLC declined in value, while my long DLC increased in value. And you can see over here that the DLCs are all priced generally between 20 cents to $2. So you can gain exposure to the underlying stock at a fraction of its cost. All right. So these DLCs are generally priced lower price, between 20 cents to $2 Singapore dollars. All right. So these are generally priced there. And every day, this DLC will give you that 5 times performance based on its previous close. Okay. So you can tell a lot about the name, about the DLC from the name of the DLC itself. The start of the name of the DLC will show you the underlying asset. So over here, the Alibaba is the underlying stock that this DLC DKPW tracks. And then it gives you that 5 times leverage. It's a 5 times DLC. And it's a long DLC. So you only buy this DLC if you are bullish on the underlying stock. And then followed by SG. SG stands for Societe Generale, which we are the issuer, SG. And followed by the expiry in near year month dated format. All right, so you can go to your POEMS platform, you search for DKPW under the Singapore market, you should be able to retrieve this Alibaba 5 times long DLC. So you look up, usually we will tell investors you look for the DLC that you want on our website because we have many tools on our website, dlc.societegen.com for you to choose. And then you go to your trading platform, your broker trading platform, to search for the DLC using the stock code DKPW, and then you can buy and sell the DLC on your broker trading platform. Okay? So that's where the 5 times performance is. Every day on a close-to-close basis, you will have that 5 times performance on the underlying stock's daily percentage performance. All right, so you can see over here in between the two arrows, you see there's a word last intrinsic close over there. So this is a daily mark-to-market value that we will have to publish on our website for every single DLC every day after market close. So the next day, if Alibaba is indeed up by another 1% on the next day, then my DLC will give you that 5% in gain, all right, or loss. And that 5% is based off this previous intrinsic close of 0.448 over here for every single DLC. There will be an intrinsic close that is published on our website every day. Okay. So a lot of Singapore investors tend to use the DLCs to access the Hong Kong stocks. All right, for a variety of reasons. Trading into the Hong Kong stocks itself is not that convenient or not that cheap per se. The transaction cost can be quite high and the minimum investment sum can be quite high for trading Hong Kong stocks. And so in the Singapore market, a lot of Singapore investors, they tend to use the DLCs to trade Hong Kong stocks, especially if it's a short-term trade, all right? So number one is convenience, right? You trade the DLCs, they are all denominated in Singapore dollars. Okay, so you don't have to change your money into Hong Kong dollars. You can use the Singapore dollars. You can trade the DLCs in Singapore dollars. And so you don't have to change your money. It's convenient and it's traded on the Singapore stock market, regular stock brokerage account. You don't have to open a new market account to trade the DLs, the Hong Kong stocks. So this one is a convenience, followed by capital efficiency. So to trade the Hong Kong stocks is not exactly that cheap per se in terms of the investment sum. Capital outlay can be quite high. For example, when you trade BYD stock itself, it can easily cost between 15 to 20k Sing dollars just for a one-time exposure to BYD stock because of their minimum lot size is quite high. All right. So you need 15 to 20k Sing dollars to trade to even get exposure to BYD stock. But for the DLCs with a minimum lot size of 100 certificates or 100 units only, you can trade the DLCs for as little as a few $100s or a few $1,000s. So you can gain exposure to BYD at a much lower investment sum. All right. And with a lower capital outlay to gain exposure to BYD stock, it also means that you have less transaction costs. All right. Your transaction cost is lowered, and also you are paying SGX exchange fees as compared to Hong Kong exchange fees, which is cheaper. So there is a lot of benefits in terms of using the DLCs to trade the Hong Kong stocks, especially if you're looking at a short-term trade. If you're looking to buy and hold the Hong Kong stocks and hold it for a long period of time, please just go ahead and buy the stocks itself. Do not use the DLCs. But if you're looking to trade these DLCs in the short term, you trade Hong Kong stocks in the short term, definitely please do consider the DLCs on our Hong Kong stock underlyings. The Hang Seng Tech Index DLCs, our Alibaba, Tencent, Meituan, BYD DLCs are also very popular among Singapore investors for these reasons of convenience, capital efficiency, as well as cost efficiency. All right. So today, note that if you're trading the DLCs, that's listed on SGX to get exposure to Hong Kong stocks. Singapore market opens at 9 a.m. and closes at 5 p.m. But the Hong Kong market opens at 9:30 a.m. and closes at 4 p.m. So between 9 and 9:30 a.m. when Singapore market is open, but the Hong Kong market is not open yet, SocGen as the market maker will not provide quotes on these DLCs tracking the Hong Kong underlyings between 9 to 9:30 a.m. or after 4 p.m. when Hong Kong market is closed but Singapore market is still open. All right. So take note, we will only market make and provide quotes, bid offer quotes on the DLCs during when the Hong Kong underlyings are open for trading between 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay. So I mentioned the DLCs are short-term in nature, all right? So it's a short-term trading instrument that you can use to capture short-term opportunities in the market. So generally, the trading strategies around the DLCs are in the short term. Number one, we see a lot of people using the DLCs for intraday trading or day trading. So they try to capture intraday movement on the underlying index or underlying stock with less capital. So with Hong Kong stocks being quite wild, you can move like 4 or 5% within a day. Times by the 5 times leverage, that's about a 15 to 20% move intraday. So definitely there are a lot of intraday traders who are coming into the DLCs to use the DLCs to capture that 15 to 20% move, or even less than that during the trading day itself, and are happy to close their positions at the end of the day and call it a day. All right, so there are a lot of intraday traders on the DLCs in Singapore. There are also swing traders. So swing trading, which means that you the DLC for a few days or a few weeks to capture a nice trend in the market, all right, or on the underlying stock or underlying index. So we have a lot of swing traders on the DLCs as well, especially on our Singapore stocks that tend to be a bit more slow moving. DBS stock, Sembcorp Industries, Capital Corp, they don't move so fast, all right? They don't move as well as the Hong Kong stocks. They take some time, a few days or a few weeks, and so people use the DLCs to capture that trend, the short-term trend on the Singapore stocks. And lastly, on the hedging wise, this is a bit more for the more sophisticated investors because hedging is not so easy. But for those who are holding a portfolio of your investment portfolio of DBS shares, UOB shares, or OCBC shares that you intend to hold for the long term because of you want to collect the yield, the dividend every year, and you don't intend to sell your DBS shares or UOB shares, but you do see a short-term impending correction coming in the bank stocks, you could possibly use the short DLCs on the bank stocks to hedge your position, to make some gains on these short DLCs, to offset your paper losses on your overall investment portfolio on the bank shares. All right, so let's look at some examples over here. This example of a day trading example on the 7 times long Hang Seng Tech DLC, ILKW. So between this intraday trade on the 11th of January this year, if you had entered the DLC that was quoting at around 50 cents in the morning when the market opened at 9:30 a.m., all right, if you trade at 50 cents, by 1:45 p.m. that same day, you will have seen a 21% gain on your DLC as the ILKW has gained in value from 50 cents to 61 cents, a 21% gain on the back of Hang Seng Tech Index gaining 3% during that 3 to 4 hour trade. All right, so 21% gain is not too shabby. That's why there's a lot of intraday traders on the DLCs as well, looking to capture some of these short-term, very, very short-term trading opportunities on the underlying stocks or index. Okay, and the next example on the swing trade. So this is a 5 times long Sembcorp DLC, DWIW. So if you have bought the DLC DWIW in the morning at 55 cents, sorry, on the 26th of December at 55 cents, and you held it for 14 trading days till 15 January 2024, you will have seen a 36% gain on your 5 times long Sembcorp DLC because it rose from 55 cents to 75 cents, and that's a 36% gain in this short period of 14 trading days because Sembcorp rose by 7%, and therefore the DLC gives you that 36% gain. All right. So the last example over here is on the hedging example. So if you're holding DBS shares for your investment and you want to collect the dividend yield, but you see an impending correction coming in DBS stock, then you could use the short DBS DLC to hedge your position. So in this case here, over here, between 14 November and 5th December 2023, DBS shares fell by 4% over this 16 trading day period. And my 5-time short DBS DLC DEOW, stock code DEOW, rose from 73 cents to 88 cents, representing a 20% gain during this same period of 16 trading day period. Sorry about that. So this 20% gain can be used to offset your paper losses on your overall DBS Bank shares investment portfolio, and therefore hedge your losses in that case. All right. So the DLCs, if you hold it intraday, right, you will have that 5 times performance. You will see that 5 times performance very clearly. Whether it's up or down, you will see that 5 times performance very clearly. But if you hold the DLCs overnight for more than a day, for over a period of time, a few days or a few weeks, you'll see that there is a compounding effect feature that you have to understand about the DLC. So this is the one most important feature about the DLC that you understand, the compounding effect feature. All right. So the compounding effect feature is the same, is typical feature in any fixed leverage instruments out there. So for those of you who trade the TQQQ or SQQQ, the ProShares Ultra, NASDAQ, long and short DLC, ETFs in the US, that gives you 3 times leverage on NASDAQ, well, they have the compounding effect as well because they are fixed leverage instruments. And the compounding effect can work for you in a nice trading market, but work against you in a volatile or sideways market. All right. So this compounding effect can work for you or against you. So you have to be you have to understand this concept quite clearly. So in this table on the left over here, you can see this table on the left illustrates how the compounding effect can work well for you in a nice trading market. So in the table on the left, you can see on day 1, the underlying is up by 1% versus day 0. On day 2, it's up by 2% versus day 1. And day 3 is up by another 2% versus day 2. So every day on a close-to-close basis, my DLC will give me that 5 times performance. So on day 1, my DLC is up by 5% to $2.63. On day 2, my DLC is up by another 10% because underlying is up by 2%. So 10% of $2.63. And then on day 3, it's up by another 10% based on $2.89. So every day you get that 5 times performance. Day 1, 1%, 5%, 2%, 10%, 2%, 10%. Every day I get that 5 times performance on the underlying daily percentage performance. But cumulatively over the 3 days, the DLC has actually generated a gain of 27%. So 5% times by 5 is 25%, right? So where did the extra 2% come from? That's because of the compounding effect. Every day your gains and losses are locked in. So the 10% gain on day 2 is based off a higher base of $2.63. On day 3, 10% gain is based off a higher base of $2.89. So every day your gains are compounded to give you that extra gains, extra 2% gain. So that's where the gains are compounded. All right. So that works well for you in a nice trading market like this, where the underlying is up for consecutive days. But in a volatile market like the table on the right over here, on the table on the right, you can see that underlying is up by 2% on day 1, down by 4% on day 2, and then up by 7.31% on day 3 to give an overall gain of 5.08% over the 3 trading days. But my DLC is up by 20% only. Okay, so every day my DLC gives you that 5 times performance still. Day 1, underlying up by 2%, so my DLC gives you 10%. Day 2, underlying is down by 4%, so my DLC is down by 20%. On day 3, my underlying is up by 7.31%, times by 5, so my DLC is up by 37%. But overall, over the 3 trading days, my DLC only gave me a 20% gain. So 5% times by 5 is 25%, but my DLC has actually delivered less than that 5 times performance at 20% because of the compounding effect. The losses on day 2, the minus 20% is locked in. So the plus 37% gain on day 3 is based off a lower base of $2.20. So these DLCs work well for you in a nice trading market where the market is a nice uptrend or a nice downtrend. But in a sideways or volatile market, you might get less than that 5 times performance. All right. So trading market, you could possibly get more than that 5 times performance because of the compounding effect. But in a volatile market, you could get less than that 5 times performance because of the compounding in a sideways or volatile market. All right, so this compounding effect is very, very important. You can visit our website, dlc.societe.com. You'll be able to find more illustrations on the compounding effect, how it works in an up trending market, how it works in a down trending market, to see how the compounding effect can affect the performance of the DLC. All right. So this is common in all fixed leverage instruments out there. So when you are trading a fixed leverage instrument, please be aware of this compounding effect feature and understand it well before you trade the DLCs. And also, this is another reason why the DLCs are not a long-term trading instrument. It's not a buy and hold instrument. All right. So in the long term, markets don't move in one direction up or one direction down. In the long term, markets tend to be more sideways, and because of such thing as mean reversion, etc. What goes up must come down, what goes down must come up. So in the long run, markets are generally sideways. That's why these DLCs are not meant to be a buy and hold instrument for the long term. It's a short-term trading instrument where you could possibly have a view of the short-term market where it's going to be an uptrend or a downtrend, and that's where the DLCs can work for you best. All right. So some illustrations of the compounding effect. This is a Nasdaq 7 times long DLC that we have, CUXW. So between this 7-day trading day period, my DLC is up by 6%. I mean, my Nasdaq is up by 6%, and my DLC CUXW is up by 45%. So an extra 3% gain due to the compounding effect. All right. And then the Nasdaq 7 times long DLC CUXW. This is over a longer trading day period of 30 trading days, where my Nasdaq is up by 6%, but my DLC only delivered 34%, less than that 7 times performance over a longer period because of the sideways moving market of the Nasdaq. All right, so the longer you hold, the more you are subject to the compounding effect, and that can alter your performance quite a bit. All right, so short term, a few days, a few weeks, but please try not to hold for the DLCs for more than a month. All right, that's my general recommendation. Okay. So DLCs versus other leverage instruments out there. I think DLCs, by now you will understand that it's a fixed leverage instrument. It is traded on the SGX securities market like a stock. All right, so it's not a margin product, nor is it an option type product. So for those of you who might trade warrants or trade options, there are optionality in its nature. The DLCs are not option type products. All right, so it's not an option product. There is no at the money, in the money, out of the money kind of concept. There's no strike price on this. There's no implied volatility, no time decay. The DLCs are fixed leverage instrument, and the closest comparison will be a leverage and inverse ETF. All right, so the DLCs are very, very similar in terms of its payoff to a leverage and inverse ETF. So DLCs are not warrants and not options. Please be aware of that. Okay. So the DLCs are more like a leverage and inverse ETF and less and not at all like a warrant or an option. Right? There is no optionality impact. There is no time decay and no implied volatility impact. All right. And DLCs are exchange listed, so they're listed on the SGX as a securitized product. So compared to other OTC product like CFDs, where it's a margin type product, well, DLCs is not a margin type product. You don't need to open a separate margin account. So this is not like a futures, not like a CFD. It is not a margin product. All right. But and so that comes with it is that if it's not a margin product, there is also the benefit of that there is no risk of a margin call. All right. So if I put in $2,000 and I trade and I buy $2,000 worth of DLCs, the most I can lose is that $2,000. All right. Not easy. It's still 100% loss, but the most I can lose is that $2,000, the 100% of my capital. All right. I will not be asked to top up my margin. I will not be asked to cough up the additional losses, even if the underlying moves adversely against you. So that's one of the benefits of the DLC in terms of being a securitized product listed on the SGX. You cannot lose more than your invested sum. All right. So that is one of the difference between the DLC and other OTC margin leverage products. Okay. So the DLCs, there is no time decay on the DLC, so it's not an option or a warrant, so there's no time decay on these DLCs, but there is an overnight funding cost. With all leverage instruments out there, there's always an overnight funding cost to give you that leverage. So the DLCs, the funding cost is priced into the price of the DLC. All right, so it's incorporated into the price of the DLC. It's not charged to you separately. All right, so if you trade a DLC intraday, you buy and sell within the same day, intraday trade, there is no overnight cost and fees. But if you hold the DLCs overnight, then there is this overnight funding cost that will be charged, deducted from the price of the DLC. So, for example, the DLC is $1 now, and I buy it at the market close today, and market close next day when the market open, if the underlying has not moved at all, for example, the underlying has no change, my DLC should be around $1 still. Okay, but the price of the DLC, the overnight cost and fees is deducted from the price of the DLC. The value of my DLC is actually now 0.999995. right? For example, but of course in the bid offer course you should still see around $1, right? But it's already incorporated into the price of the deducted from the price of the DLC, and deducted every night after the close. So I mentioned just now the intrinsic close just now. The intrinsic close is the final value of the DLC every day at the end of every day after deducting this overnight costs and fees. All right, and this overnight costs and fees is published on our website every day for all our DLCs, every single DLC. The overnight costs and fees is published on the website, on our website for every single DLC. All right. So the DLC also have another feature to it called the airbag mechanism. All right. So the airbag mechanism is something that is something you should know about it. That there's this airbag mechanism for the DLC, but it doesn't happen that often. All right. It's an intraday reset mechanism. So it's an intraday reset mechanism to reset the leverage intraday if there is an adverse move, a very significant adverse move on the underlying asset intraday, so as to reduce the total exposure on the DLC after the airbag is triggered. All right. So every single DLC has an airbag mechanism in there, and they have a specific airbag trigger level. So for index, it's at a 10% intraday move of the index. So indices generally don't move 10% intraday. So that's why I say that this airbag mechanism doesn't happen that often. All right. So if the underlying, whereas for the stocks, there is a 15% airbag trigger level. So if the underlying moves adversely against you, 15% intraday, this airbag will be triggered, and the airbag mechanism workflow will kick in. All right. So this airbag trigger only happens on if it moves against the direction of the DLC. So for example, if I buy a long DLC, 5 times long DBS DLC right now, and DBS intraday move 15% down. Okay, DBS corrects 15% down. My long DBS DLC, my 5 times long DBS DLC, the airbag will be triggered. Whereas my 5 times short DBS DLC, which got the direction correct, will not have the airbag triggered. All right. So the short DLC will be standing at 75% gain, and the gains is uncapped. All right. If DBS is down by 20% today intraday, my DBS DLC, short DLC will be up by 100%. But my 5 times long DBS DLC will have the airbag triggered. So when the airbag is triggered, generally the DLCs will go into a 30 to 45 minutes of suspension, where we will reset the leverage factor, the 5 times leverage factor of the DLC. We'll reset it based on the new observed level that is determined in the first 15 minutes of the airbag trigger. So after the DLC resumes trading 30 to 45 minutes, all right, the 5 times leverage or the 7 times leverage is no longer based on the previous close, the yesterday's close level anymore, but the 5 times or 7 times leverage is based on the new observed level that is determined in the first 15 minutes of the airbag trigger. So even if the underlying continues to move down after the airbag trigger, my exposure is actually reduced and my losses are lesser. All right. But if the underlying rebounds after the airbag trigger mechanism kicks in, right, my ability to recover will also be lesser because your exposure is reduced. Okay. So there's this intraday leverage factor reset mechanism that is present in the DLC, and also it's a common feature among all fixed leverage instruments out there. So please take note of it as well. But again, it doesn't happen that often. For the index, you will have at least need a 10% move intraday on the index before any airbag mechanism is triggered. For stocks, it's at 15%. All right, so 15%, Singapore stocks, I would say, is very rare. Hong Kong stocks, it can happen. It has happened a few times before on the Hong Kong stocks. So if you're trading the Hong Kong stock DLCs, good to know that there's this airbag mechanism feature as well. Okay, you can read up more again on this airbag mechanism feature on our website, dlc.societe.com, for more information and illustrations on the airbag mechanism. Okay, so dividend and corporate actions, I'll take it at one go. So generally, the DLCs track the total return track the underlying stock or underlying index on a total return basis. So we assume that the dividend is reinvested into the DLC. So in a sense, there's no impact to the DLC when the stock goes ex-dividend. The DLC should remain unchanged because we assume that the dividend amount is reinvested back into the DLC. Similar for corporate actions as well. Any stock split or rights issue, etc., we will make adjustment to the DLC such that you can get the economic equivalent as though you were holding the shares of the underlying stock. Okay, and there'll be announcements made for the corporate action. 2 announcements, one for the formula and one for the final adjustment factor. Whenever there's any corporate action on adjustment on the DLCs, there will be announcements made on the SGX announcement website. Okay, that's on our DLC website as well. All right, so there's also early termination clauses. So all these are things that you can read up more on our website under the listing documents of the DLC, or even our educational resources on our website, dlc.socgn.com. You can find all the DLCs that are listed there. We have over 200 DLCs listed there on SGX Market. You can find the DLCs here on our website under the search page. And then you can go into your broker trading platform and trade the DLCs using the stock code. All right, so you can find the full list of DLCs on our website, dlc.socgn.com, and you can find out which one is the right DLC for your target exposure. You can view the resources that we have on our website, the videos that we have on our website as well. There is a whole range of videos for you to look at to understand more about the DLC. I encourage everyone to view those videos before you trade the DLCs as well. Okay, and yeah, that's all I have. Okay, I think we can move into the Q&A section.
All right, thank you, Marcus, for sharing. I'll be taking over as the host for this session. And yeah, so thank you, Marcus, for the insightful sharing on the DOC products. We have now come into our section of the Q&A segment. So let me just share my screen real quick. 1 second. All right. So do we have any questions from the floor for Marcus before we end the session? If you have any questions, you can type them out in the questions box. There should be one at your bottom of your screen. All right, I'll give the audience some time to think, maybe because the presentation was so in-depth that they have to think about what questions that they have. If you have any questions, do reach out, because sometimes the questions, they do kick in after the event. So if you have any questions you want to direct to Marcus after the event, you could just send us an email and we'll have a reply. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, so we do have a contact us page on our website as well. So if you visit our website, dlc.socgn.com, you should be able to see a contact hotline on the right hand side, even though it's a Singapore number. But there's also a contact us page on the top where you can write us a form, drop us a message on our website, and my team and I will be able to address any queries from the DLCs through that contact us form as well. So definitely it's a lot to digest in this session. I think it's quite a lot of information that I've thrown to you guys. But please do come back with your questions, whether is it through Philip or whether is it through our contact us page on our website, dlc.socgn.com. Happy to answer all those questions, and I think it's good that you understand more about the product first before you trade the DLCs. So I think definitely the conversation doesn't end here. All right.
All right, thanks, Marcus. We do have a question right here, and it is, hi there, first time to learn this DLC product. Is there any requirement for the initial capital to start to purchase?
No. The bot lot units on the SGX is 100 units for stocks as well. Same for the DLC, so 100 units. And the DLCs are generally priced between 20 cents to $2. So you can generally trade the DLCs for as little as $100 or $200. But of course, I would say that you need to take into account your broker commissions, the exchange fees as well, before deciding what kind of quantum you want to put into DLCs. But there is no really fixed investment sum other than the 100 units of bot lot units that you have to adhere to. All right.
All right, thanks, Marcus. We have another question, which is, are DLCs available for Malaysian stocks?
Currently, no. Currently, we do only have Singapore, Hong Kong stocks only. But definitely something for us to consider. That's why we are doing this webinar as well, to gauge the appetite or the interest that Malaysian investors have in such fixed leverage instruments like the DLC. It has grown very popular in Singapore and outpacing that of the warrants market in Singapore. Therefore, we think that Malaysian investors could be interested, and we're doing some sounding, and with more interest, definitely we'll be keen to do more or do DLCs on Malaysian listed stocks as well. As well as the Malaysian index. Something that we are also considering is the KLCI index. That one is something that we're considering. So your feedback is very important. So please just drop us a contact us form. Just type in a few words. Interested to have KLCI DLC, interested to have Petronas DLC or Malaysian stock DLCs. That will definitely help us in terms of gauging the demand and be able to get the resources to introduce DLCs on Malaysian stocks, which I think I heard is very exciting on the Malaysian stocks. Volatility could even be comparable to Hong Kong stocks. So definitely we look forward to that, but we need your feedback and your response to gauge the demand. All right.
All right. So moving on, we have another question, which is, how is the liquidity of the DLC overall?
All right. So very good question. So on the DLCs, generally we trade between 10 to 15 million Singapore dollars a day. Maybe some days are slightly lower. This is in a nice market. Around 10 million a day in terms of our total traded value on the DLCs. So that is quite sizable. But that liquidity wise, the turnover or the traded value should not be your priority sort of like concern in that sense. Right. So a lot of people have that misconception on the liquidity of the DLCs. When there's no traded or no turnover on the DLCs, we have over 200 DLCs listed on the SGX securities market, and not every one of them is traded every day. For some days, your Alibaba DLCs could be in favor, but on some days, your Gili Auto DLCs might not be in favor, and there's no traded value on that Gili Auto DLCs today, for example. But it doesn't mean that you can't trade that Gili Auto DLCs, because for us, SocGen, we are obligated by the exchange as the DMM or designated market maker to provide liquidity on the DLCs throughout the trading day as long as the underlying stock is moving. So you have to look at the bid and ask prices and the bid and ask volumes. You will see us there quoting for investors to buy and sell the DLCs throughout the trading day, even if there is no traded value on the DLC, on that particular DLC for that day. All right. So that is the real liquidity, where you can see the bid and ask prices and the bid and ask volumes that SocGen is providing. That's where the real liquidity is for you to be able to trade the DLCs. All right. The turnover traded value is a byproduct of that. All right. So it should not be your utmost concern. But generally, we do have about 10 million traded on the DLCs every day.
All right. Let me just do a last round checking of any other questions. Do you have any other questions from the floor before we end the Q&A section? Don't worry if you have missed this or any of the parts of this webinar, because it is recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Flip Capital Sendirian Berhad on YouTube. Just search us up and it will be recorded and published there.
Yeah.
All right.
And
so
I think
any
last
other,
note
yeah.
also, I think the last note is that I think surprised no one asked this, but I think you can access the DLCs through Phillip Capital Malaysia's trading platform, the regular stock trading platform. The same way that you trade DBS shares into Singapore market, you will find the DLCs there as well. And I understand that Phillip Capital does offer one of the most competitive rates for Singapore market trading. So trading Singapore stocks, trading DLCs listed on SGX, Phillip does offer one of the most competitive rates over there. So I think you can go and check out Phillip's website. You should be able to see the rates over there. But they do offer one of the competitive rates from my understanding. So hopefully, you guys can, Malaysian investors can have less of a hurdle for you to trade into Singapore, into the SGX market, trade our DLCs on the SGX. Hopefully that's less of a hurdle for you given the competitive rates. All right, thank you.
Yep, you can trade DLCs through our platforms, Palms Global and Y2.0. That is our current newly refurbished stock trading platform. So you can trade any of the listed DLCs that was introduced by Marcus on our platform. Yep. So let me just do a long check. Yeah. So I don't think there are any other questions. So with that, I think we can call an end to the session. And I want to thank all of you guys for joining. So now quickly before I end the session, let me bring up once again, if you are interested in trading stocks or DLCs or futures or CFDs with us, this is our QR code for the account opening portal. And if you have any other questions, right, for any of the listed products or any of the other products, you can contact us here. We have our social media handles, right? We're on Facebook, YouTube, Telegram, and LinkedIn, and Instagram, as well as our website, flip.com.my. Or if you would prefer to reach out to us at any of our branches, we have the contact details here. We have branches all across Malaysia. So I'll just stay here for around a few more seconds if you want to snap a picture of this.
Yep, and you can
Alright,
also
yeah.
reach out to Philip if you have any questions on the DLCs, and check out our website dlc.sociga.com for the DLCs, and please do share with us your feedback. Anything at all on the DLCs would be very helpful. And just want to say a thank you to Philip for inviting me to join this webinar to share with you guys more about the DLCs that we have listed on the SGX, and hope you guys can start your DLC trading journey. All right, thank you. Thanks, Philip.
All right, thanks, Marcus, and thank you to all of you. All right. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Thank you.